Everyone experiences a point in their lives when they feel utterly out of control. Whether it's the end of a relationship, the loss of a job, or the overall chaos of daily life, these events can leave us feeling powerless and overwhelmed. But what if I told you there is a way to not just survive, but thrive during these difficult times? Seneca, an ancient philosopher who learnt to maintain calm in a turbulent world, is our hero today, and we will delve deeply into his writings. Rather than being theoretical musings, his Stoic concepts are practical strategies that have inspired generations of leaders, philosophers, and individuals, and that we too may put to use today. In this video, you will learn a series of Stoic principles that will help you become mentally tougher and more robust in the face of hardship. If you're still with me, I'd like to show you how these old principles can help you live a more tranquil and balanced life today. If you love our content and want to show your support for the channel, simply click the subscribe button. It is entirely free and allows us to continue presenting you more movies like this. By the way, I highly encourage viewing the entire video. You're clearly an exception to the rule if you're here because you appreciate the value of delving deeper. Lesson 1. The Stoic Secret to Success. Why multitasking fails and focus wins. In our modern fixation with doing more and being more, Seneca's ancient advice, to be everywhere is to be nowhere, highlights an important reality that is all too often overlooked. The concept of focusing on one action at a time is central to Stoic philosophy, and it can influence how we approach daily tasks. In a society that extols the benefits of multitasking, we must pause and consider whether this method is truly effective. Trying to manage too many tasks at once dilutes our focus and increases the risk of making careless mistakes. Concentrate every minute like a Roman, like a man, on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness, tenderly, willingly, and with justice, and on freeing yourself from all other distractions. This focus is not only on increasing productivity, but also on cultivating a mindset that values depth over breadth. Marcus Aurelius, another prominent Stoic philosopher, gave this counsel: if we want to offer our full attention to anything, a business project, a personal pastime, or even a serious conversation, we must learn to focus on one item at a time. This type of intensive labor can lead to a greater sense of accomplishment and success. According to Plato, this solitary concentration helps us achieve a higher level of truth and beauty in our work by allowing us to give our all and produce something that resounds with the ideas of perfection and benevolence. Paying close attention to one activity at a time has a significant positive impact on mental health. Because our brains aren't working as hard, we feel less pressured and can make better decisions. This technique would undoubtedly receive Aristotle's approval because it helps us grow the virtue of self-control, which is necessary for managing our wants for instant pleasure and diversions, as he felt that virtues are best learned by habitual correct behavior. Adhering to this style of concentration is consistent with both modern psychology and the work of Stoic philosophers, who maintained that the human brain is not meant to handle multiple complex tasks at once. Focusing on a single task at a time permits us to accomplish more while also enjoying life more. Socrates' style of extensive investigation and dialogue demonstrates its effectiveness by focusing intensely on one problem to the exclusion of all others. Adopting this Stoic ideal not only boosts productivity, but it also promotes inner quiet, balance, and reflection. Rather than accepting the disarray of modern multitasking, it promotes a more deliberate and focused way of being. As we continue to do this, we may notice that our health and productivity improve. Lesson 2. Taming the Unruly Mind. Stoic Practices for Self-Mastery. All the greatest torments are the result of an undisciplined mind, Seneca wrote. highlighting a fundamental truth about human nature. Our unfettered appetites may inflict enormous mental suffering and brutality. We might address this problem using Stoic ideas, which emphasize the importance of logic and self-control. Stoicism teaches us to acknowledge and control our emotions rather than suppressing them, which is ineffective and unsustainable. Being self-aware is the first step toward learning how to regulate our desires. No man is free who is not master of himself, another Stoic philosopher's well-known saying. This remark underlines the need of self-mastery in achieving true freedom and happiness. Increased self-awareness allows us to better manage our impulses and comprehend what triggers them. To do this, we must not conceal our emotions, but rather fully understand them so that our actions are consistent with our principles and future goals. This notion was repeated in Aristotle's philosophical teachings, which emphasized the importance of cultivating virtue to manage our appetites. He believes that goodness rests in the golden mean, a pleasant medium between extremes. Take bravery as an example. It falls in between carelessness and timidity. When it comes to managing our impulses, the goal should be to strike a balance between acting on impulse and doing nothing at all, so that our responses are thoughtful and reflective of our best selves. Furthermore, making rational thought a habit is a key aspect of employing philosophy as a tool for controlling our wants. Marcus Aurelius constantly reflected on the importance of grounding one's ideas in virtue and reason. The author's words, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This attitude teaches us to master our impulses by turning our attention inward, away from external triggers. We can begin making judgments based on deliberate study and reflection rather than spontaneous feelings if we apply philosophical insight to critically examine our goals. By constantly engaging in this activity, we may strengthen our thoughts and live in accordance with our ideals. It leads to a life in which one makes calm, considered decisions rather than rash ones. A Stoic method for impulse control is to regularly question and evaluate one's instinctive responses. The goal is to make philosophy more than just a course of study. It should affect how we live our lives, allowing us to transcend transitory pleasures and discover purpose in the long run. This logical strategy for limiting your cravings can help you live a more purposeful and happy life by focusing on more than just avoiding emotional distress. Lesson 3. Fortifying the mind, the Stoic art of preparing for life's challenges. Prepare psychologically for exile, torture, battle, and shipwreck, as the sage Seneca once advised. It may seem unduly dramatic to declare that all the terms of our human lot should be in front of our eyes, but not everyone is sailing the high seas or battling in battle. The idea that one must psychologically prepare to meet life's unavoidable obstacles is key to Stoic resilience, which Seneca is attempting to express. Stoicism teaches us to plan for the worst-case situation, not to be fearful of what might happen, but to cope with the shock and grief when it happens. This type of behavior is described by the Latin phrase, the premeditation of evils. To be emotionally and psychologically prepared for life's unexpected turns, it's important to picture worst-case scenarios ahead of time. Consider this. In order to prepare for the pressure of real competition, athletes practice in incredibly demanding settings. Just as practicing tough scenarios in our thoughts helps us deal with stress and adversity more calmly, so does confronting those circumstances. Realizing how much worse things could be makes our daily problems seem less overwhelming, which is why this Stoic discipline allows us to appreciate our current situation. Following this Stoic ideal does not imply being immobilized by fear of the unknown. Rather, it necessitates an honest acknowledgement of such possibilities. Rather than languishing in anxiety, you can take proactive efforts to improve your job security, such as rewriting your resume, attending classes to raise your marketability, or studying alternative career paths. This allows you to properly prepare for the worst-case scenario while remaining cool under pressure. Furthermore, this rule is relevant in situations other than individual crises. It is about being ready for anything that may happen to us, whether it be a change in our financial condition or the death of a loved one. Being well prepared allows us to decrease the impact of the initial shock and accelerate the adjustment and recovery processes. A little but significant shift occurs in how we deal with life's uncertainties. We become less reactive and more receptive. Following Seneca's advice allows us to develop a resilient mentality that is unaffected by adversity. Being mentally prepared to handle any situation, no matter how terrible it gets, boosts our resilience and mental toughness. It's not about bracing for the worst, though. Seeing things from this Stoic perspective allows us to see that every adversity contains the potential for both loss and regeneration. Lesson 4. The Stoic Challenge. How embracing adversity fosters true strength. Another deep wisdom from Seneca: difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. This notion is important to Stoicism and refers to a seemingly counterintuitive approach, deliberately accepting hardship. It is about building our mental toughness and capacity to face life's unavoidable challenges by consciously choosing to be uncomfortable rather than viewing it as a punishment. Consider the significance of openly embracing adversity. In this way, it is analogous to how an athlete prepares for a competition by exposing himself to rigorous conditions. The contender understands that by training in a controlled environment beforehand, they will be better prepared to manage the pressures of the actual event. Just as we can increase our mental toughness and flexibility by deciding to face unpleasant tasks head-on, we can do the same by simplifying our lives, speaking out publicly, or taking on a difficult assignment at work. Following Seneca's lead, we discover that consciously pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zones not only tests our limits, but also allows us to evolve. Put yourself in situations where you'll have to speak in front of others on a regular basis in order to transform your fear of public speaking into expertise. What looked frightening at first becomes manageable and, over time, pleasant. Recognizing that growth often comes from difficulties is important to this Stoic discipline, rather than seeking out suffering in and of itself. When we willingly put ourselves through adversity, we must also reset our comfort levels. Opting for the more difficult path may appear radical in a society that values convenience and simplicity. Stoicism, on the other hand, urges us to examine what true solace means. Is it only the absence of pain, or is it the quiet assurance that comes with knowing we can deal with anything life throws at us? Living according to this Stoic ideal allows us to appreciate the present moment more fully. Living with less stress allows us to enjoy life's small pleasures more thoroughly. It is about setting the framework for a robust life, not one that attempts to avoid adversity. This is not to argue that we intentionally seek for adversity. Rather, we see it as an opportunity to put our Stoic beliefs into practice. We gain a strong sense of self-efficacy when we willingly face problems. By doing so, we prove to ourselves that we are capable of overcoming obstacles, which enhances our confidence. The fact that we can overcome any challenge acts as a constant reminder that our strength is greater than our expectations. Let us thus follow Seneca's example and put ourselves to the test in the field of self-imposed misery. Not only will we encounter challenges, but we will also learn the keys to a stronger and more fulfilling living. Lesson 5. The Stoic Mindset: transforming hardship into growth. A wise man once remarked, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This is a sobering reminder that our deepest anguish often stems from how we choose to see events rather than the events themselves. It's easy to fall into the victim mentality, believing that awful things happen to us rather than to or with us. The importance of perception is emphasized in Stoicism. How we see and interpret life's challenges has a significant impact on how we feel about them. If we allow ourselves to be perceived as helpless victims, we lose any control or agency we may have had. Nonetheless, if we view hardship as an opportunity to learn and grow, we may be able to control our reactions and adopt a more proactive approach to life. It is natural to feel isolated or discriminated against after getting unpleasant news, such as not being promoted at work. Although these feelings are understandable, Stoicism teaches us to think critically about our responses. Could it be that we're perceiving things through an unfair and loss-oriented lens? What if, on the other hand, we saw this as an opportunity to receive honest feedback, improve our flaws, or reassess our entire professional path to see whether it better matches with our objectives? To avoid becoming victims of our own mistakes and hardships, we must refrain from making light of them. What this truly means is that we need to start worrying more about how we react to situations than to the happenings. This change is major. As a result, we can move from being passive observers to becoming fully engaged in our lives. We stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and instead ask, "What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this situation?" Stoicism teaches us to pull back from our initial emotional reactions and consider the bigger picture. The key is to recognize that while we do not always have control over external circumstances, we can manage how we understand and respond to them. This shift in perspective has liberated and empowered me. As a result of our purposeful and resilient lives, we are better prepared to meet future challenges. Furthermore, this Stoic principle strengthens our interactions with others. Instead of blaming and resenting, we can build stronger connections by refusing to see ourselves as victims indefinitely. Recognizing that others are just as responsible for their own enjoyment as we are for our own makes us more compassionate. Adopting the Stoic path frees us from the constraints of self-victimization. We acknowledge that we are the creators of our reality and take charge of our narrative. This sense of action is central to Stoicism and is required for a fulfilling and active life. Instead of wallowing in self-pity, let us choose to be strong, wise, and resilient, reshaping our stories so that we can rise above victimhood. Lesson 6. Inner Retreats, Stoic Philosophy's Guide to Solitude and Self-Mastery. Retire into yourself as much as possible are Seneca's wise words that emphasize the importance of solitude in Stoic philosophy. This is not a call to seclusion, but rather an open invitation to deep reflection on one's own life and ideals. Everyday existence in our fast-paced, interconnected world might make it difficult to hear our own voice and reflect thoroughly on our values and progress. Stoicism defines true solitude as more than just being physically alone. It also entails a profound understanding of one's own nature. Philosophers from all around the world have emphasized the considerable benefits of spending time alone. Marcus Aurelius, another Stoic philosopher, wrote frequently about the importance of self-reflection. He believed that knowing oneself was essential for living a healthy and meaningful life. He stated, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." This highlights the idea that being alone provides a respite from the outside world, allowing one to focus on personal progress without interruption. Furthermore, when we sit alone and allow our minds roam, we are free to explore our emotions and thoughts. The opportunity to reflect on what has occurred and how we might better live according to our ideals is a gift, We can learn more about ourselves and our life goals by incorporating this into our daily practice. This congruence is essential for living one's life authentically and finding happiness. Introspection, according to Aristotle, is important for achieving eudaimonia, or flourishing. In his opinion, developing virtue and acting logically necessitated first and foremost a comprehension of one's own character. Being alone helps us to reflect on our lives, find opportunities for development, and make decisions that are consistent with our actual beliefs and ambitions. Being alone, like the Stoics did, allows us to be more robust. Epictetus emphasized the importance of reflection in preparing the mind to withstand adversity. He suggested that people use solitude to strengthen their character and mental endurance in preparation for life's inevitable trials. His words were this: "It is in your power to withdraw yourself whenever you desire." Perfect tranquility within consists in the good ordering of the mind, the realm of your own. Furthermore, being alone permits us to completely appreciate our existing connections and social interactions. When we return from periods of alone, we frequently find that we have more to offer people, whether it's empathy, patience, or insight. This improves the quality of our interpersonal connections as well as the impact we have on our communities. According to Stoic philosophy, seeking solitude does not mean fleeing from life, but rather becoming more fully involved in it. We can have the clarity to act more thoughtfully in the world if we withdraw into ourselves. Several ancient thinkers, including Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus, demonstrate how to use time alone to enrich our lives rather than flee from them. As we wrap up today's topic, it is clear that Stoic ideas are more than just theoretical frameworks discovered in old writings. They give us practical counsel that we can apply to our daily lives, allowing us to be more contemplative, strong, and fulfilled. Stoicism emphasizes the need of preparation, self-control, accepting adversity, avoiding self-victimization, and discovering clarity through seclusion. Each of these tenets encourages us to reflect on our own life, develop our characteristics, and confront the difficulties we encounter head-on. Keep in mind that Stoicism does not promise a carefree life, but it does provide us the tools to face adversity with grace and dignity. It teaches us to see misfortune as an opportunity to grow morally and to use adversity to build our character. Following these Stoic ideals allows us to thrive, living a life of inner peace and contentment. Following the Stoic tradition, let us look further into how we might apply these age-old ideas to today's difficulties. We should all strive to improve ourselves daily and live virtuously and consciously. If you want to continue on this route, watch one of the videos that are currently playing. Their goal is to help you explore the real-world consequences of Stoicism. The Stoic Journal team and readers appreciate your visit to our website. We appreciate your desire to learn more and your willingness to advance with us. Remember that obtaining wisdom is a difficult journey, but every step you take brings you closer to living a meaningful life. Continue to walk courageously.